Welcome back to Forward Progress presented by Fanduel. We are back with another NFC East division preview. I'm your host here, Jason Cooper, alongside Austin Mock at amock419 on Twitter. And let's pull up the board and get into things right away. NFC East right now, as it shapes up according to the odds makers: Eagles minus 135 to win the division, Commanders plus 220, Cowboys plus 480, then a massive cliff, and the New York Giants at 29-1 to win the NFC East. Let's start with the top. Division is pretty segmented. It's pretty clear who everyone thinks is going to win this division. Let's focus on the top to start. The Super Bowl winning Eagles, they're back. Have a lot of pieces together. Their main losses really only being Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, and they were kind of able to replenish that through free agency, adding depth at the defensive end position and the defensive line position. Currently, like I mentioned, minus 135 to win the division, plus 370 to win the NFC, plus 750 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, outside of a Hurts injury, what is stopping this Philadelphia Eagles team from making another run to the NFC Finals, to winning the NFC, and to making it to the Super Bowl again?
Yeah, I do think the losses to the defensive line are probably the most notable. Those are some big losses. I love Vic Fangio. I was a huge fan of them when they hired him last year. I thought that was a huge upgrade. So I think he'll be able to, make the most of it. But they are a little thin. Just traded, Bryce Huff away to an NFC contender. If he can get back to his form like that, that's a loss there that, the Eagles might not have. Now Jalen Carter's great, and maybe he takes the next step and he's just like a game wrecker there. But there is some concern. There's not a ton of depth there. There's a lot of unproven pieces, definitely on the edge. So I think that's probably the biggest concern I had for them. There's also the concern Saquon Barkley had like 450 or whatever the number was touches last year. And the track record of guys like that is pretty bad. Now, am I going to say that like Barkley going down with an injury, does that make them like fall off a cliff? I doubt it. I still think they have enough pieces on the offensive line, still good wide receivers. Hurts is good as well. But it's one of those things that Barkley was pretty awesome for them in a lot of areas last year. So losing him would be a hurt as well. But I'm more concerned with the defensive line, as I think the depth is tested in the NFL season. Off a Super Bowl season is very long, and depth will be tested for sure.
So, yeah, the biggest issue there might be their defensive line depth. Who knows if they take a step back? But like you said, I think the Vic Fangio thing was I was pretty high on the Eagles preseason as well. I think a lot of people were last year. So it wasn't like a unique thing. But the Vic Fangio thing really, I think, helped even the playing field for them. Plus the performance of their cornerbacks. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. It's tough to see rookies come out of the game. The only problem I have, though, is cornerback play, as we know in the NFL, it's not very sticky. So we could have a great cornerback one year, and we can see him fall off the cliff the next year. So that could be a little bit of a determining factor for this team as well. But obviously, as the odds go right now, odds on favorite to win the NFC, third most likely to win the Super Bowl. This team might be in for another run in 2025. Let's take a look at Washington now, a team that took a massive leap forward in 2024. I don't think anyone was expecting them to make that big of a leap. Jane Daniels, he looks like the real deal. I don't think there's anyone doubting that. Their win total right now is set dead on at 9.5, minus 110, both sides. Personally, I'm still a little bit skeptical about the Washington Commanders and the roster outside of Jaden Daniels. I mean, you kind of the Commanders might have done this thing where they overachieved so much last year that they've set expectations too high in 2025. So, do you think the market right now is too high on the Commanders?
I do. I think it's similar to C.J. Stroud and Houston Texans from 2 years ago. They, came out of nowhere. I think one of the big things that people forget is that scheduling in the NFL is not even. And the Commanders were playing a fourth-place schedule, just like the Texans were the year before. The Texans had to play a first-place schedule, which is obviously much tougher. But the Commanders do have to take a step up. They have to play a second-place schedule. So I think that's going to factor into it. On top of the fact that as good as Jaden Daniels was, it's hard to think he's I would say it's unlikely for him to take the next step because that's just he probably puts himself into the elite quarterback category at that point. And that just is very rare. It's easy to bet against that. And the other thing is they just had so many high leverage plays go their way late in games last year. And if a couple of those don't go, maybe we're talking about them not being as good as they were. So that's a concern for me. And again, I'm not in love with their defense. I think their defense is another team that are not a strength for them. And if there's any bit of, they got Laramie Tunsil in the offseason. If there's any bit of like a step back in that offense, do they have enough to, get through and be a team that can compete in the NFC East? I don't know. Are they a for sure playoff team? I think they're far from a for sure playoff team because of the concerns of, can Jaden Daniels repeat or be better? That's a tall task, and I just don't think the defense is there as well.
All right, fair enough. And also, I want to give kudos, of course. I kind of poo-pooed on this team a little bit, but Cliff Kingsbury, I think he kind of showed the world that, hey, he's a guy. He's has a reason to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I feel like he did some really good things with this offense. Again, this offense right here, this team is built to boat race teams. So I'm the same as you here, skeptical about their defense. I think the market is still a little bit too high, but at the same time, again, this could be an offense that is able to go out and be first, second, third in points for in the NFL with how strong of a quarterback Jane Daniels is and how quickly that they play.
Before we get into the next part of the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Fanduel. It might be the offseason, but if you want to bet on the NFL and NFL futures, Fanduel is the place to go for that action. If you want to bet on awards markets, who's going to win the Super Bowl, to win each division, heck, win totals that you can parlay together, and so much more. You can do it over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com/forward progress. Download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/forward progress.
On to the Dallas Cowboys here. I mean, I don't know what to make of the Cowboys. Right now, their win total is sitting at 7.5, -140 towards the over. So obviously, the market thinks that they're around an 8-win team. Obviously, this is a good team that has some incredible, very top-heavy talent. I mean, they have CeeDee Lamb, who's an elite receiver. They have Dak Prescott, who's a great quarterback. They have Micah Parsons, an elite edge rusher. Those guys are all legit. And then, you know what? I'll throw in George Pickens as well as a guy who is a very strong talent. But outside of those four, this team is devoid of talent. So it's incredibly top-heavy. So I guess the question are the Dallas Cowboys going to be carried by their top heavy players in 2025? What are your thoughts on the Cowboys? What do you make of them?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's kind of reminiscent of these Rams teams the past few years, like maybe not quite like to that level, but kind of a similar blueprint in that they need Dak Prescott to get back to his 2023 form, obviously staying healthy as well. And then you get that second receiver. They really needed that, and they really need Pickens to, be there, focused, all of it. It's a contract year for him, so hopefully they get that. And if he does, like from a wide receiver 2 standpoint, the talent, there's not many that you can put ahead of him in that wide receiver 2 category. So that'll take a lot of the burden off of Prescott. That'll take a lot of the burden off of CeeDee Lamb because it looked like before that trade, it was like, okay, you just double CeeDee Lamb, and what are they going to do? So, I think they really have to rely on that. I think Trayvon Diggs coming back, injury will help them on the back end. Like you said, kind of the stickiness of cornerback play with when we were mentioning the Eagles, they fall in that category. I'm assuming Micah Parsons in the contract deal gets worked out. If he somehow holds out or something, I don't think that's likely. That would be a problem. But again, he's a guy that can just ruin offenses. So again, if they get a crazy year out of him, Dak gets back to his form, and I think they can make some noise. But there's a ceiling to that. That's why we never saw even when the Rams won the Super Bowl, they were the 4th seed. It's really hard to win 11, 12, 13 games in the NFL. So their ceiling's capped. That's why their win total, around an 8-win team. I think I'm a little bit higher than that. Definitely after the Pickens move. But yeah, there's some concerns because if any of those top guys go down, there's not a lot there. Like you said, the depth is void of talent. So we'll see what happens with the Cowboys. But I am a little bit higher than them, than market on them as we head into the season.
Yeah, it seems like I'm standing in front of all of you guys who I think are very smarter than me. So maybe this is the wrong thing to do. But yeah, I'm not in the same boat as you with the Dallas Cowboys. Again, it comes down to just, you mentioned how the similarities between them and the Rams, like in terms of personnel. But I see the big difference being in terms of their coaching staff. The jury's very out on Brian Schottenheimer. I don't really know much about Clayton Adams as an offensive coordinator. Matt Eberflus, I mean, he was a pretty good defensive coordinator, but I'm kind of out on this coaching staff, which kind of makes me out on the Cowboys. Hey, I could be wrong, and this could be an 8-win team, but I'm out on them. The only way I would target them in futures, I'd be taking a look at maybe if FanDuel eventually puts up this market, they had it last year, most points. This is a team that could potentially have the most points in the NFL, just with, again, how they're built. Strong offense, strong passing offense, and very, very weak defense outside of Micah Parsons. Finally, let's get into the New York Giants. I mean, I've yapped so much about this team this offseason on this channel. I'm sure everyone knows by now. They are one of my sleeper picks. I like them a lot in this offseason because, one, I trust Brian Daboll, and two, I think their defense is really, especially their defensive line, has potential to be the best defensive line in the NFL next year. I'll save my ramblings about the New York Giants. I'll give you the floor. What do you make of them? Are they going to are they locked into that 4 spot? Do you see like an upside case for them? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, definitely see an upside because of what you mentioned. The defensive line, if you told me they were the best defensive line in football, come December, I wouldn't be that shocked. If Abdul Carter lives up to, the 3rd overall pick and is a good rookie, then they can destroy games. The problem is I just don't know if the points are going to be there. Like, the Browns have, like, they kind of remind me of the Browns of the last couple of years where it's like the points just don't come. Because if there's like quarterback play, offensive line play, whatever you want to call it, obviously now they have Malik Neighbors who looked incredible last year. So that maybe, if he takes a step forward, that's a boost for them. But I could see this being a team that's like top 10 in points allowed, but like 30th or worse in points for. I can see that. Now, Jackson Dart, I was a big fan of Dable a couple years ago. If he can kind of work some magic with him, the 1 year wonder that they had with Daniel Jones when they made the playoffs and won a playoff game, I can see that, but I don't know if I'm betting on it. I don't want to say it's like a lame duck season with him and Shane as the GM. That they were kind of shocked that they were both back for this year, but yeah, if they can ride the defense, again, they're playing a 4th place schedule. Maybe things kind of break their way, but I don't know if there's enough upside on offense with a rookie quarterback. I guess there could be Russell Wilson here. I just assumed that they were kind of going to eventually go to Jackson Dart here, but Russell Wilson's not giving me a lot of confidence, and a rookie quarterback isn't either to get them where they need to be. But that defense, if they play like a top 5 level, then yeah, they'll probably, they could sneak in like a 3rd place finish. I don't know if they can catch the top 2 teams in this division, but I can see it with that defensive line.
Definitely hard to do to catch those teams, and maybe, who knows, sneak into 3rd place. There's a chance of them at knocking on the wild card door. Obviously, a very big stretch. I think they're like plus 800 to make the playoffs. So that's a little bit crazy. Anyways, let's go to our last 2 questions here. First one being range of outcomes. Give me the team that you think has the widest range of outcomes of these 4 teams. Sorry.
I'd say it's the Cowboys. Just kind of a cop out because they're so top heavy. Like if injuries were to happen, which they always do, if they happen like 2 of their top guys, then obviously it's crazy, a crazy swing in what they have, and just like it's even if you want to say it's like Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, like they're so adamant, like they need those guys to play so well. If CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, I don't know if I love that offense with George Pickens being a wide receiver 1. So I'll probably go with them. Maybe that's a little bit of a cop out, but like I said, I'm a little bit high on them, but I could also see this kind of being I don't want to say disastrous, like unless Dak gets hurt, I can't really see them like winning 4 or 5 games or something like that. But I could definitely see, this being a team that has to score a ton because the defense isn't quite there and the wins just don't show up. So yeah, I'll go with the Cowboys. Most wide range of outcomes, most volatile team in the division.
All right, Cowboys, most volatile team. Let's close out with one last question. I'm going to turn it to the comment section first. Ask you guys what you think. I want to hear the exact finishing order for the NFC East 1, 2, 3, 4. Who you guys got? Drop it in the comment section down below. Now turning it to you, Austin. Give me your exact finishing order for this division.
It's tough because I don't want to go chalk, but I'll go chalk with the with how the betting market is right now. Eagles 1, Commanders 2, Cowboys 3, Giants 4. I do think 2-3. Like I thought about flipping the Cowboys there. I do think they're closer to the Commanders than people believe. Like if I had to bet that, I'd rather take the plus 500. But I do think the Commanders are just like the depth is there a little bit more than the Cowboys. So more likely for them to finish second.
Second division preview for the Forward Progress channel. Second time the guest is going chalk. That's okay. We're just, again, this is gun to your head, and you guys are doing it, not me. But I think people probably know where I lie in terms of exact finishing order. Anyways, that just about does it for today. If you made it this far and you like the video, do us a favor, smash that like button down below. And while you're there, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We got tons of division previews coming your way. On top of that, tons of other NFL offseason content coming your way throughout the entire offseason. We're going all the way right into September. Constant stream of uploads. So if you guys are into that, if you guys are into the NFL, make sure you're subscribed down below. Turn on alerts as well if you want to get the newest drops right when they come out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.